Okay, so we're here in another client's home. We're going to go ahead and do a worst case CAS depressurization according to the BPI 1200 standard. We're going to use our worst case test form. We're going to, as long as you follow steps 1 through 12 on this form, then you will be in compliance with the BPI 1200 standard. This one's an interesting house because this room in here through this door is the CAS, or there's a closet in there that's CAS, and there are 2 doors into the CAS here, and there's another one off of this bathroom, so there's 3 doors connecting the CAS. Also, where these guys are standing, there's a great partitioning door that comes from upstairs, so at some point in our test we'll be closing that door and figuring out what kind of effect that has on the CAS. Okay, so step number 1 is to put all the appliances in standby. So it says place all combustion appliances located within the CAS in their standby mode and prepare for operation. So we have the furnace turned off, and then we also have the water heater is set to either pilot or vacation. So we've completed step number 1. Step number 2 is to make sure that the fireplaces are off. It says fireplaces and wood stoves must be fully extinguished with no hot coals, and you want to close the dampers and the fireplace doors. This home actually has 2 fireplaces in it. This one here, we've actually just completed our blower door, and not only do we know that all the dampers are closed, but we also showed with an IR camera that there was no air leaking on this one, so we know this one's all closed down and ready to go. This fireplace actually has a balloon in it, so we know that its damper is closed as well. So the fireplaces are both off and dampered. The next one is to make sure all the exterior doors and windows are closed. Again, we just completed our blower door test, so we do have all of our exterior doors throughout the house closed. All the windows are closed and ready to go, but you just want to do a quick double check. Okay, step number 4 is to close all the CAS doors. So again, here I am from inside the CAS, and we have our furnace and our water heater are inside this closet. The closet is louvered, so really we are talking about closing this door here. We have another door over here, and then back in the back of our CAS we have a 3rd door which you can access from this room. So this door is closed. Now these should not make much of a difference because they all are vented, so they have some jumper ducts through the doors, but we will close them because that is the step on our test. So make sure these are closed. The next step is to set all the interior door positions. As you can read here, it says to close the interior doors of all rooms except for rooms with an exhaust fan and rooms with a central forced air return system, or system return, sorry. So we'll go through the house and close all the doors where if there's only a supply and there's no return in that room, we're going to close that door. Or if there's no exhaust fan in the room. So okay, so that one just has a supply register in it. It's just a bedroom. This one is a bedroom that's connected to a bathroom, and in the bathroom we do have a 2nd door so we can isolate that room. So that bedroom only has a supply in it, but now this bathroom does have an exhaust fan, and it probably has a supply down there, but either way, because it has an exhaust fan, we're going to go ahead and leave these doors open to the rest of the house. And then also we've got a couple of returns here in the hallway, but really there's no doors to close there, so it doesn't really matter. But just we've got these 2 doors closed, but we have the door open to the bathroom, and then all of the other main areas up here on the main floor are just open. They do all connect to the basement through this door, But again, this is a central partitioning door that we'll deal with in a minute. Downstairs, we're going to have all these CAS doors closed. But we do have one bedroom over here that we will close the door on that room since there's no exhaust fans in there. And then we have one bedroom in here, and there is an exhaust fan in, or bathroom, sorry. There is an exhaust fan there, so we're going to leave that one open. So once we go back in here and close this CAS door, then all of our interior doors and our CAS doors are in the right position for the test. All right, step number 6 is mechanical ventilation needs to be turned off. So we're going to turn off any mechanical ventilation and forced air or cooling and heating systems. So as we got ready here, we already have our heating system and our air conditioning is off. Upstairs, well, in this, the bedroom or the bathroom over here, we already know that that fan was turned off. And then there's one other fan upstairs. There's not a fan in the kitchen, so we really just have the 2 bathroom fans, and we have verified that both of them are off. So step number 7 is to go ahead and get our starting pressure. It says measure and record the baseline pressure in the CAS with reference to the outside. So we've got our manometer set up here in the CAS, and we have sorry, the lighting's a little low in here, but you can see we have the left side of our manometer. We have the input tap is open to the CAS, and then this reference hose, this green one, is actually going to the outside. So we're referencing the CAS with reference to the outside, and it is giving us a pressure. Now over on the right hand side, in a few minutes, we're actually going to be measuring the pressure of the draft on the water heater, or whatever the pressure is inside the vent. We'll be measuring that over here, and that's, we've got our hose going up into the vent right here, and then the reference tap is open, so we are measuring the vent pressure with reference to the CAS on channel B. Okay, so because our CAS actually has these louvered doors, we want to close them as well. So we are really considering these doors and this door over here and the one behind the equipment. Those are all our CAS doors, and we're supposed to start with them in a closed position. So we've set our manometer up inside here with all the hoses that I just showed you, but we've closed the louvered doors. Dalton's got his phone connected to that manometer through Wi-Fi so we can see what's going on. And again, on channel A, that's our CAS pressure. So looks like it's bouncing around a little bit. And again, we're looking for our worst case CAS, which means we're going to go for whatever makes it the most negative. If yours is bouncing around a lot, you can change the delay to like a 5-second average or a 10-second average, and that will help. That will mathematically average out the numbers for you. So I think Dalton just switched it to a 5-second average. We'll go to negative 1.8. Okay, so that's step number 7. We've recorded that we have a negative 1.8. Now step number 8 is to turn our exhaust equipment on. It says turn clothes dryers on. You want to check and clean the dryer filter and verify there's no blockage in there. Any range hoods or other exhaust fans that are exhausting to the outside. And it says operate exhaust equipment at the higher speed settings. So if you have any ASHRAE fans that they're set up to move like, 40 or 50 CFM all the time, but if you can flip them on high, they'll kick up to like 90 CFM. You need to be turning them on high. And then it says do not operate a whole house cooling exhaust fan. So if you ever run into that, you wouldn't want to operate that at all. And then again, we're measuring and recording the pressure in the CAS with reference to the outside. So Our exhaust equipment here, Dalton's going to turn on the dryer. He's verified that the lint trap is clean, and also that outside at the termination everything looks nice and clean. We don't have any major blockage there. So we're going to kick that on in here in the CAS. So in the basement bathroom, we just turned on the exhaust fan. And then up here in the master bath, we have a fan here, and it is set. This one works both as a continuous ASHRAE, but also local exhaust, and by turning on the local exhaust switch, it will turn it to its highest speed. And I can hear it starting to ramp up. So that's all of our exhaust fans. Now we're just watching again on channel A. We're watching to see how that impacts our CAS pressure. We'll let this ramp up and normalize a little bit and then record it.
So now we're hanging around -5.
So just by turning those fans on, it has put our CAS at -5.0 for our exhaust equipment. Next step's going to be to turn on our air handler, and as number 9 says, number 9 and 10, determine and indicate the condition above that causes the greatest CAS depressurization. Measure and record the greatest depressurization. So our goal here on number 9 and also on number 10 is we have to identify whether the air handler is going to be on or off to give us the worst depressurization. So to do that, you have to turn the air handler on to the highest speed that it could possibly go to during normal use and operation. So if your air handler, under an emergency heat call or a call for heat for a long period of time, if it's modulating or two-staged, you need to make sure that it's going to ramp up to its highest speed. If your air handler has an air conditioner on it, that will run at its highest speed. Typically, and so you'll actually just want to go pull the disconnect and kick on your air conditioner. So let's do that. Okay, so out here at the air conditioner, we are just going to either switch it off if it's a switch, or in this case you just pull this out and pull the whole panel apart. You just pull this disconnect out and set it aside. You're going to have to do that anytime it's cold outside so that you don't damage the equipment. That way when we turn our air conditioner on, that won't turn the equipment on out here. And then here at the thermostat, we're just gonna go to cooling mode and turn it way down so that the furnace will kick on in AC mode. So back in the CAS, we can hear the air handler starting to ramp up. We'll give it just a minute and see what our CAS pressure is doing. Okay, with our air handler on, it looks like it's putting the CAS in just slightly worse condition than it was before. So at a -5.6 with our air handler on would be worse than the 5.0 that we had when the air handler was off. So if this had actually caused the CAS to go more positive, then we would show that the air handler is supposed to be off, and you'd leave that at a -5.0. But since having the air handler on did put the CAS in worse depressurization, then we're recording saying it's on and a -5.6. Okay, the next step is the CAS doors. So we've started out with all the CAS doors closed. We're going to go ahead and open them, and we're going to see what that does to our CAS pressure. And then let's take a look at our, and probably kick these louver doors open a little bit, and let's just see what kind of effect that has. And it is a little windy today, so our pressure's bouncing around a little bit. We've averaged it out to 10 seconds now. And let's just let it normalize here for a second. So started out at 5.7, dropped down to a -4.7, -4.1. So it looks like it is actually putting our CAS in more negative into a more negative pressure, or under more negative pressure, when these doors are closed. So we're going to leave them closed. We're going to document that on the form that they are closed, and that the CAS pressure when they are closed is that same negative 5.6. And then the last thing is alternate door positions. Now, if you feel very strongly about it, you could go throughout the house with a manometer and you can actually do a zonal pressure test on every door if you want to. Feel free to do that. If you do that, then you're going to document that on step number 11. But please note, on step number 11, there's this little asterisk here that is actually required. So anytime you get into a house where there are central partitioning doors, like the one we have at the bottom of the stairs in this house, you are required to basically do exactly what you just did with number 10. You're going to test it while it's open, and you're going to test it while it's closed, and you're going to figure out which position puts the CAS into a greater or more negative pressure. So let's go and close that door. So again, this is just the door at the bottom of the stairs. I'm going to close that, and then we'll, oh yeah, yes, just close our CAS door. So closing the partition door, we got our CAS doors closed, and then we're just watching our manometer here. And with that door open, our greatest depressurization was negative 5.6. Let's give it a second for pressures to normalize here. So it looks like it's gone a little more positive when we open this door or close this door. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and open it, and we'll keep watching our manometer for a minute. Let's see if this will go back up, back closer to that 5.6 or not. So opening it back up is making it go a little more negative. With the fluctuating wind pressures outside, we may not get back to the negative 5, but we want to determine if this has any impact on the CAS. And it's kind of bouncing around. Yeah, close it again and see if it changes anything. So negative 2.6. Back to 5 seconds. So again, with it closed, we're at right around negative 2.9, negative 3.0, and then let's open it and see what it does to the pressure. Looks like it does go slightly more negative.
We'll grab the other gauge and we can test it.
Yeah, so where it's bouncing around, let's do what Dalton's saying. We're going to use a manometer and do a zonal real quick to be for certain on this one.
Yeah, it's a husband-wife deal.
Okay, so Dalton's got another manometer here, and he's just doing a zonal. So he's just got the hose under the door, and we're just testing pressure. So and as we expected, there's not a huge pressure difference from this side of the door to that side of the door.
That's why it's not effective.
And that's why we're not seeing it change the CAS pressure very much. So, and where it's this close, could really go either way. So Dalton basically just changed the hoses so that it is as if we're now standing on the other side of the door.
Yeah, it's not going to matter though. There's not much pressure between the two.
Yeah. Okay, so in this case, we're going to go ahead and indicate that this door is really not having an impact on the CAS pressure, and so we'll just show that our worst case conditions are what we found a while ago. And I'll go ahead and record those.
Oh, sure, if you want.
Okay, so on our alternate door positions, I put an NA because, as my notes indicate, the door at the bottom of the stairs has no impact on the CAS pressure. If we actually found that it made the CAS go more negative, like say it went to a negative 6.3 or something, then we would actually record the 6.3, the negative 6.3 here, and then down here we would describe that, you know, the door was closed, and that's you know, the door at the bottom of the stairs was closed, and that's what caused it to go more negative. So, but since it's not having an impact at all, we want to make that note. And then number 12, all we're doing is carrying this down. We're just saying the worst case conditions we got it into was a negative 5.6, and so we now know that our worst case CAS pressure is negative 5.6. So at this point, we now want to move on to the second part of our test, and that's where we actually measure the vent pressure of the appliance that we're trying to measure or trying to test, which is the water heater. So water heater in this case, we need to measure it at 2 minutes. So after we fired it at 2 minutes, we want to know what the vent pressure is. Again, we're measuring that on channel B on Dalton's phone, but Dalton's going to go ahead and he's going to fire the water heater, and we have a timer here. As soon as the water heater fires, we will start the timer. Did it go?
Yep, it fired.
All right. And then again, we're trying to keep the CAS in worst case conditions, so we're closing the door, and then we're watching the manometer. And as I mentioned, this channel A is bouncing around a little bit, but now we're watching channel B, and we want to know at the 2 minute mark whether or not this appliance is drafting. As you can see, we're already at a negative number, so we know it is drafting. And it's, you know, at a negative 4 is a pretty decent draft, but we'll go ahead and check back at the 2 minute mark and see where we're at. All right, so we're getting close to our 2 minute mark here, and as you can see on channel B, we are still quite negative, and so negative 6.3. So we have a nice strong draft. So our vent pressure is negative 6.3 for the water heater. So water heater does pass our, it does have an acceptable draft. There is one other piece of information we want to collect here, and that is we want to know what the CO is on the water heater at the 5 minute mark. The 5 minute mark is when we are under a steady state efficiency, or basically the appliance has been burning long enough so that it should be a nice clean burn. So we've added 3 more minutes to our timer. So once we hit, you know, the end of this time, then we should be at 5 minutes, and we'll be able to take a combustion test on our water heater. You'll notice when we do this, we still want the water heater under worst case conditions, because if the water heater ever gets choked and is starving for air, then the CO levels could rise. So we want to measure our CO with the appliance under worst case. Okay, so on our water heater, we need to get our combustion analyzer down into the flue a little bit so that we're down below the dilution air that's coming in. And then looks like we're coming up on, we've got about 40 more seconds, but we'll go ahead and kick our pump on, and we'll start watching things. Now, we've been able to see that these louver doors really have no effect on our CAS worst case, so we've kicked them open because the CAS is still is just as negative with them open or closed. And just gonna watch here. When we get to the 5 minute mark, which we're almost at, we'll be able to see. So we're looking at our flue temps. We want to make sure that we're up to normal flue temps for a water heater, so we should be somewhere up north of 300 degrees. And you can see we've got 1 part per million on CO. But the BPI standard is the air-free measurement, which is this one right here. So our CO air-free is at 2. And I'm going to go ahead and hit print, maybe.
What are you doing?
So with this, I'm just going to record what our CO was, and then I just want to finish out the test. So we had a water heater that it passed worst case. So our conclusion is that all of our Category 1 combustion appliances are venting safely. And then I'm going to go ahead and sign and date this, and that's it. We have completed this test.